What's up, y'all? Welcome back to BNL Reactions. Today we're looking at Could Jiraiya Beat the Akatsuki by Swag the Programmer. Not Swag the Programmer. Swagkage. Let's go ahead and get started.
Money making season and being broke is treason.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Swagkage here, and today I've brought with me my good friend Seth the Programmer.
Set the programming here. How's it going?
Yeah, he really do be programming.
Yeah, true. nice to have you.
So this is one of the few times where I actually feel like the title isn't completely self-explanatory. So we're gonna be talking about Jiraiya versus the Akatsuki, of course, but it's not like Jiraiya versus the entire Akatsuki at once. That would be a little weird.
No.
I guess we can get into like if he could beat certain groups, like two-man teams or whatever.
Okay.
If we have time.
He already can't beat Pain. We already know that. So maybe he can do two-man groups though.
Beat certain groups, like two-man teams or whatever, if we have time. But we're generally going to be going over like one-on-one matchups. Obviously, Jiraiya loses to Pain.
Yeah.
Actually, if he knew his secret,
Yeah.
he would have won.
Jiraiya would not beat Pain if they fought. Just something tells me that that's probably not how it would go. I hope we get to see them fight sometime, but oh well.
Yeah, hopefully.
The next ones, some of these are really easy. Others are like really tough. I think that most of us can agree Jiraiya would probably beat Hidan up.
Most definitely.
Hidan is the admitted slowest of the Akatsuki, and Jiraiya can react to Konan, who is not the slowest. Then yeah,
Like Jiraiya fought Konan, beat her up, like in base.
oh yeah, that's
too.
another one. Him versus
so
Konan, pretty easy.
So we know he would beat Konan, especially in Sage mode, because he beat her in base. So that kind of takes care of that. Now maybe if she had the 600 billion paper bomb prep, that fight would go a little bit different, because obviously Jiraiya can't use Izanagi or anything like that. So if he like falls into the sea, like for some reason steps onto the water, and then she opens the sea of paper bombs below him, then yeah, he'd probably lose. But against normal, non-Batman prep Konan,
Batman prep.
it's like 10 out of 10. So now this is where we kind of get into slightly more difficult territory, but I think that Deidara and Kakazu are dubs for Jiraiya. They're a little bit more difficult, but I don't think that they're anything that Jiraiya, especially in like Sage mode, wouldn't be able to handle. So
His Sage mode is kind of OP, man, because he got him and he got Ma and Pa. So he got three people working together at once. Naruto and Minato, who also could do Toad Sage, they kind of also cheating because they have two people. Well, not people, but you know what I mean. Like they got themselves and Kurama working together. So I don't know. Like the people who we see with Sage mode usually is just by themselves. The fact that they got extra people is kind of broken, man.
Wouldn't be able to handle. So the Storm Revolution Ninja Escapades cutscenes are not canon, but Kishimoto did supervise the story, which means that he had a direct hand in writing some of those encounters, like for example Konan versus Sasori. And Konan beat Sasori, and Sasori's stronger than Deidara. So if you think that Konan is above Sasori because Kishimoto seems to think Konan is above Sasori, then like Jiraiya's beating up Deidara and Sasori in base, much less in Sage mode.
Okay.
It's a little bit trickier, like if you don't use that direct comparison, but there's other data book stuff that makes it more clear too, right? Now, I didn't like this statement at first. Eventually, Six convinced me to chill out. But there's a statement about like Jiraiya's power in Sage mode surpassing all 5 nations and stuff like that.
Wait, what?
Him being stronger than all the Gokage, like that kind of crazy stuff. And in that case, Jiraiya should be above Gaara, who like he didn't lose badly to Deidara, and he also then got stronger by the time the 5 Kage Summit and the war rolled around. And he still seemed to be weaker than A and Onoki. So like if Jiraiya is stronger than both of them, then this should firmly put him above Deidara.
In my opinion, I like to think that if you imply that Jiraiya and Orochimaru are equals, that Orochimaru and Jiraiya
and Orochimaru, they're implied to be equals. They're implied to be, especially when they fought in the little Sanin fight. They were equal. Well, everybody had a nerf, so that's not even fair to say. Orochimaru had his arms cut off basically because of the beginning of the show. Tsunade had a, was she nerfed? Tsunade was the only one who wasn't nerfed in that fight, I think. But Jiraiya, he was poisoned and like put to sleep by Tsunade with her little drug. She drugged him basically, so he was drugged up. Orochimaru had his arms gone. Tsunade, the only thing I can remember was Tsunade being like a nerf in that Sanin fight was her fear of blood, but that didn't come in till later, like towards the end of that. So I mean, around, if they're all nerf, then they'll like around each other, but in general, I don't think Orochimaru is around Jiraiya's level. I would think Orochimaru is a lot harder to kill. A lot harder. He just comes back. You can't seal him away. You can't kill him. He just comes back. But I would think Jiraiya is more powerful though. Like he got more jutsus. I don't know. It's the fact that Itachi beat Orochimaru when he was like 11. So it's like, it's hard for me to say that he's as strong as or stronger than Jiraiya when Itachi beats you at 11, bro. Like, come on, man. It's just hard for me to get past that. Anyway, let's go ahead.
Maru are equals, that Orochimaru and Jiraiya are probably relative, or if not above the level of Sasuke that could already beat Deidara anyway. The only difference is that unlike Sasuke, who is close to very short mid-range, Jiraiya and Orochimaru are a lot longer range than he is, which allows them to have more of an upper hand against Deidara. There's also this implication that Orochimaru did not fear Sasori at all, and even when Sasori was trying to spy on Orochimaru, he was aware of it. There's this pseudo rivalry where it seems that Orochimaru was very confident in taking him, and even was going to assassinate him at one point. The only other thing is that it also seemed in those scenes that Orochimaru had zero fear when it came to Deidara, and I would just argue that due to that Sasuke scaling, that Jiraiya probably is that level, at least relative enough to fight in that battle, in which, you know, Toad Song and all kinds of things.
Yeah,
just
that goes off there.
It
Like
just
some
kind of like there's just so many win cons for Jiraiya, and he probably, like, due to scaling to Sasuke and Orochimaru, probably has the reaction speed and the smarts and the senses just to survive long enough. Maybe if a crazy bomb went off or something, but who knows? You know, maybe he could also reverse summon himself. Or
he definitely could. Couldn't he put himself in like the belly of the frog, right? Like he did in the fight against Pain. So he has like escape mechanisms.
He might be able to just like teleport Deidara into that realm while he blows up. So one thing about Jiraiya is that he has such an arsenal of hacks abilities that just nobody really seems to talk about for some reason, which helps him a lot with these fights. Now, as for the Kakazu fight, I do think that Jiraiya is more like a Kakazu level for me personally. I think that one's a lot harder for me to decide on. As you guys know, I think Pain is stronger than Kakazu, but you know, I also think Pain is a lot stronger than Jiraiya, so it's not really any statement for me. So I would say that Jiraiya is closer to Kakazu than to Pain, in my opinion.
Yeah, I can agree with that.
I agree with that. I think that Pain's like way above him.
Yeah, and something that kind of supports that is you have Kakashi fight a Pain, and he fights the strongest Pain.
I talked about this before.
He actually fights the Pain that ripped Jiraiya's arm off, as well as the Honcho Pain. So he fights stronger pains than Jiraiya and Sage Mode did. Not to say he beats Sage Jiraiya, but just an example. And this Kakashi just got done kind of losing to Kakazu without his MS, give or take. They were somewhat relative-ish, with Kakazu slightly superior. Of course, Kakashi, he could always whip out his MS as he implied, but the Sharingan Kakashi that fought Kakazu was also shortly later fighting stronger pains. So yes, I do think that Sage Jiraiya probably is more like that tier than Pain. So I do think that it's a debatable subject. So
obviously we know Naruto beat Kakazu, and Naruto believes that in order to beat somebody who killed Jiraiya, he's going to have to learn Sage Mode. Like, I think that Sage Jiraiya is still way stronger than that Rasen Shuriken Kakazu battle Naruto. I don't think a whole lot of people would disagree with that.
But I do think that the thematic argument of him needing to learn Sage Mode to surpass his mentor probably makes a lot of sense, and it's probably what Kishimoto was going for. So if we're talking to the comments, I would say that makes sense. Yeah, sure. But
Now, Sasori is a character that I don't know how to scale this fella. I really like Sasori. I want to be able to gas him up. I'm a Sasori goon. I have Sasori pretty high on the tier list that I made a couple of months ago. In fact, I believe Sasori is above Sage Jiraiya. You can take this,
really,
this if you want. Seth,
really above Sage Jiraiya. I mean, his poison is unbeatable. People do tend to downplay his poison, because if he pulls out 100 puppets and they all got insta kill poison on them, that means you literally can't get scratched not one time. So who has the reaction speed just to dodge 100 things attack you at once? Like, you can't get hit not one time. If you get hit one time, the poison is killing you. So people do underestimate that part of it, because like literally nobody has the antidote except for him. It's super OP poison. But yeah, other than that, Sasori isn't. But it's like, well, how can you get past the puppets though? I was gonna say beyond the puppets, what do you got? But how do you get past the puppets? That's the whole thing. You can't get past the puppets. You gotta, unless you like Naruto, who can clone yourself 1,000 times. How are you gonna fight 100 things at once? If you pull out the 100 puppet jutsu that took down a whole country, and they all got insta kill poison, it's like, what you gonna realistically? What you gonna do against that?
Already went over some arguments that put Jiraiya above Sasori, which I think are totally valid. The main reason for Sasori is it's stuff that I've talked about before, right? It's like all the third Kazekage stuff, how the third Kazekage is like stronger than Gaara, and also stronger than Rasa, who Gaara was like relative to, and Gaara's not that far behind the other Kage, I would say, during the war, and Sasori did it without that puppet, which is like his greatest asset. But there are a lot of like Sasori anti-feats out there. Like, even though he like let Chio and Sakura kill him, there are times where it does look like he's genuinely trying to kill them, and Sakura is just like,
yeah, there's blatantly a moment where he is monologuing about wanting to kill one of the characters. So it's like he's not putting on an act unless he is putting up some kind of like the Joker level performance where he has to convince himself, or he's like, oh, I should think this just in case one of them can read minds or something, which is insanely absurd to assume.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
If you think of that, then sure, like he was suppressed the whole time, but like he was straight up monologuing at one point, and Sakura was able to evade his attacks. And we know that Sasuke at the start of Shippuden is way stronger than her. So, and then it takes Curse Mark 2 plus amps for Sasuke to reach Sannin level. So, it's kind of like,
But wasn't Sakura being controlled by Chio?
Kisame is real,
like, that wasn't her own speed.
because that guy is strong, dude.
So, okay, first thing, if you think that Kisame said that the Sannin make 7 Ninja Swordsmen look bad, and he was making this assumption based off of how strong Orochimaru was when he was in the Akatsuki, then Jiraiya smacks him up, like probably very easily. But if you think that maybe
I like Kisame, man. Kisame is one of my favorites.
Titles based on how hard like Hanzo is like wanking them to the world to make them popular, then it's a bigger debate.
I also think that you can totally discount that statement from Kisame because even Kishimoto has said before that Kisame kind of exists in Itachi's shadow. Itachi was the first one to say they should run, and Itachi also did use Amaterasu to get out of the frog belly, right? Like Kisame sees Itachi like busting his ass and is probably just like, oh shit.
He had to use the Mangekyo Sharingan, like wow.
Like he has no reason to believe that Itachi is like mega mind, like 4D chess lying to him and like an undercover like Onbu agent or
I forgot
whatever.
which game it was. It's been a while, but there was some game cutscenes that were actually canon, like confirmed to be TV anime.
Oh yeah,
canon.
it's I think it's Generations, right?
Yeah, it's been a while since I brought this one up, so yeah, Generations, something like that. One of them was canon, but it shows Itachi versus Kisame fighting, and the second Kisame forces Itachi to whip out the MS, Kisame's like, oh wow, that's good enough for me just to see you whip out that eye, like wowie, you know?
Yeah.
So for him to see Jiraiya whip out that eye, he's like, wow, that guy must be stronger than me. But you know, something I just thought of right now is the fact he made Itachi whip out the MS.
Yeah.
When, you know, Orochimaru got pointed at, like he didn't.
Yeah.
And Jiraiya is Orochimaru's equal. You know. That's one thing about Kisame that makes him so hard to scale. And I had a problem with this in my Akatsuki ranking video. It was that, you know, the thing about Kisame is that while his base stats are actually not the most crazy, the stronger his opponent is, the stronger he becomes. So it really depends on, you know, how long you think he could fight. And
yeah, like he fought B, he fought Guy.
Jiraiya would toy with him.
Like his Shadow Clone fought Guy, and Guy used like 7 gates to beat him on the Shadow Clone.
You know, if
crazy.
Jiraiya's like instant frog song or maybe instant massive Rasengan to him, maybe it would like heavily damage him. You know, how much chakra can Samehada just absorb, and is Kisame fast enough to react to Sage Jiraiya? Like, do you think Sage Jiraiya is, say, as fast as Base Killer B or something like that? Because, you know, Kisame could react to Base Killer B. So, you know, you have to think about things like that when you're thinking of the battle. And
so this is a hard 50-50 for both of them. So
who else are we missing? Obito. That's no difficulty. We don't need to talk about that.
We can talk about Itachi. Actually, we can talk about Itachi. So
Sure.
a lot of people are going to be like, but Itachi, but Itachi
Lord.
ran away from Base Jiraiya in part 1.
Talked about this in my Itachi video, and every Itachi.
I really don't know who would win in this situation.
That has remotely mentioned Jiraiya.
Yeah,
It's just
Especially sick Itachi, I don't know.
You know, not wanting to go all out and kill Jiraiya, who's taking care of Naruto and all of them. He doesn't actually want to get Naruto as much as they're acting. It's clearly just, you know, a ploy. We know that for sure. He didn't even go all out against Sasuke. You know, like Obito had to break the ice. Like, did you know Itachi could have killed you at any moment? Like, he wanted. So if Itachi can do all that, he can certainly play it up that Jiraiya is stronger than he thinks too. And this is the main argument. This is how it goes. Okay, you ready for this? Okay, Itachi points at Orochimaru. Okay,
Yep.
points at him. Puts him into a genjutsu so crazy as a 14-year-old.
Oh, he was 14, okay.
Years later, when he's strong enough to fight the strongest Kage with Edo Tensei summonings, doesn't want to scrap with Itachi remotely until he gets his own Sharingan from his stolen brother's body, and is just so devastated by getting pointed at with one finger, says, I could never beat Itachi. He's too strong. Like, and Sasuke himself is like, yeah, me and Orochimaru might need to fuse our bodies to be able to take him. Like, it's clearly demonstrated that Itachi is above the Sannin in terms
Yeah.
of power. Like that's the
Clearly.
whole point. Like Pain and Itachi are the above Sannin level endgame pre-war bosses for Naruto and Sasuke. Like that is the whole.
It's just that for me, it's just that Itachi is clearly above him, but he's sick, so he can't. It's not a lot. He can't be in like a prolonged battle. If he blitz you, it's over with, but he can't be in a prolonged battle because he's sick and he don't have Mangekyo. He don't have a long time to use Mangekyo because he's already going blind. So that's the only thing with Itachi is that he's sick and he can't use his abilities a lot because he's already going blind. But other than that, he's clearly above Sannin level.
Endgame pre-war bosses for Naruto and Sasuke. Like that is the whole point. Like just being straight up honest. It's just so clear to me.
It's very funny that Itachi goes to the Leaf Village where Naruto is, literally infiltrates it and starts eating in like a restaurant undercover. Nobody spots him, right? And then like fights with everybody outside, but he specifically waits until Naruto and Jiraiya are supposed to be like together.
I think it's also something you need to think about from Itachi's perspective is how is he going to convince Obito he was genuinely struggling? Because Black Zetsu and Obito are probably not going to be convinced that someone like Kakashi, who seems to be weaker than Orochimaru, who he pointed away, steered away from the village. It just doesn't seem likely. So someone like Jiraiya seems more likely for what it's worth, at least to him. But yeah, it's just the whole thing is weird because everything Itachi does is an act. Even when he's messing up Kakashi's like, why didn't he just kill me already? Like what? Yeah. Like so yeah, even since the very beginning he just messes around, so it just doesn't mean anything ever.
Yeah, I want to know comments. What do you think Jiraiya can do to bust through the Yada mirror? Give me
the Yada mirror? Nothing. There's nothing he could do for that.
Like, how is he like resisting the Totsuka blade?
The only thing that Jiraiya could do to Itachi is like frog song him, but I mean, like, if you were to be like in a genuine matchup, Itachi,
he would already be Genjutsu.
Like 99% more win cons than Jiraiya does, and like just more than likely just
first second he's Genjutsu.
Jiraiya just can't possibly win. Apparently he could possibly beat Pain if everything went perfectly, so sure, he could probably beat Itachi if everything went perfectly, but more than likely Itachi just stomps him out. So
yeah, and so then there's Obito, which like Seth mentioned, it's like, come on, man.
You got to use the Toby form.
Come on. Do you actually, like, come on, bro.
We don't need to go over that.
The Toby form he could beat.
Obito thinks that
I was about
Obito
to say,
is just more intimidating than Pain.
Yeah. Minato thinks that 14-year-old yellow mask Obito is stronger.
Would require
than Pain.
Nine-Tails Jinchuriki mode, by the way.
Yeah.
He doesn't think Sage Naruto could do it. It would take
he thinks that Sage mode isn't like enough. He's like, no, you need to master the Nine Tails. So
yeah, he's seen him fight Kakazu, he's seen him fight Pain, he's seen all of them. He's like, nope, you need Nine Tails mode, buddy. Not happening. So that's just as clear as it gets. Like so
okay, Jiraiya has about like a 66%, maybe like 50-50. Definitely auto loses to 3. Might lose to 1 and beats the other 5.
It's almost like, just like Orochimaru, he could join the Akatsuki, but he wouldn't be the strongest. Yeah. Wow. crazy how that added up.
Yeah, it's perfect. He'd be right there, like next to Kisame, like where Orochimaru is on everybody's Akatsuki list. Yeah,
crazy
how that shakes out. Thanks for coming. Everybody make sure you go subscribe to Seth. Subscribe to the channel too if you want more Naruto content.
Yeah, he does way better than I thought he would.
What we got wrong that was like really...
I still think he can beat Toby though.
Money making season and being broke is treason.
So that was could Jiraiya beat the Akatsuki. If you like this video, leave a like on the video. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. And I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.